In any market, we have a demand curve, and that demand curve is made up of all the different consumers that wanted to purchase a product. Now, let's focus in on a couple of consumers. Let's label the first one Consumer A. And let's just say that Consumer A had a willingness to pay of $20. Now, we have two different concepts here. We have the market price and the willingness to pay of a consumer. How do they relate to each other? Well, you can imagine that if consumer A was willing to pay $20, but he gets to a market and he finds out that the product he wanted to pay for with $20 is only $10, he's going to have what we call surplus, meaning extra happiness. And basically, this happiness can be measured in terms of dollars. So, graphically, we can say that this portion of the graph is the consumer surplus for consumer A. Now, we can have different consumers. Let's call them B. And each of them is going to have a different willingness to pay. And so, each of these is going to have their own shaded area. Now, if we keep expanding and expanding customers, right? We have consumer D, E, and F, and so on and so forth. And you can easily see that the whole area between the demand curve and the price level is going to get filled out, such as this. And so graphically, we now understand that consumer surplus is going to be equal to the area below the demand curve and above the price level. We can take a similar approach to producers. But instead of having a willingness to pay, producers have a willingness to sell, which is the minimum price they are willing to take for their product. So, if we have several producers and each of them has a different willingness to sell, we can start calculating the individual surplus for each producer, as shown here. When we add up all the producers and their producer surplus, we will get producer surplus, which will be the area above the supply curve and below the price. We can continue expanding on the idea of producer and consumer surplus by calculating the respective areas. Now, the areas we're going to be seeing in this class are going to be fairly simple they're going to be represented, as you see on this graph, by triangles. So we're going to take on concepts we have learned in geometry class all throughout our education and just use those formulas to calculate consumer and producer surplus. So the approach is fairly simple. First, you need to be able to distinguish the height of the triangle. So for the height, we are looking for the price, right? The difference between the market price and the maximum price that we see on the graph. Now, for simplicity's sake, we're gonna label this point right here, and we're gonna say that's a price of $25. So, what is the height of this triangle? Well, we take the 10 and the 25. So there's a difference of $15. So that's gonna be my height. $15. And I'm going to multiply that times the base. Now for the base, we are going to need to know the quantity. Let's think of a simple number that we can multiply. Let's say it's 100 units. So that's my base. Because we start from this point and we end at the equilibrium. That is my base. Now, this is a triangle, so we're going to have to divide everything by 2. The 2 is nowhere on the graph. What you need to understand is that the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. This will be $750 of surplus. So all the consumers added together in this market have a surplus of $750. We take a similar approach when we're calculating the producer surplus. But now we have to look at the bottom of the graph, which ends right here at this point. Let's pick another simple number. Well, let's just pick a 5. So now my height is represented by the difference between $10 and $5. That is going to be simply $5. Again, 10 minus 5 is 5. And I'm going to multiply that times the base. The base now is from this red point to the equilibrium. Again, the base is going to be the same for both examples. Again, I divide by 2 because that's in the formula for calculating the area of a triangle. This equals 250. That means that if we add up all the producers in this market, they will have a producer surplus of $250. If we just add these two numbers, my 250 and my 750, I will get something called total surplus, which in this case will add up to $1,000. As a market, the surplus is $1,000.